What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether it be NHL, MLB, NFL, or NBA, whether it be games, news, highlights, all that fun stuff we're here to talk about. But Nick, today I want to bring a question about a playoff team that was probably the most aggressive in free agency, or one of the most aggressive teams, the Nashville Predators. And obviously last year, but before that, they've kind of been, just that middle of the pack team after a couple of good playoff runs. They made a head coaching change. They bring in Andrew Burnett, really respected, was a player in this league. I believe, even coached the Panthers team before Paul Maurice came in, that led them to the President's Trophy, number one seed, best record in the NHL. I do believe, though, they did go out in the second round to the Lightning, but he led the Panthers to their first playoff series win since 1995. So people forget, before these recent Florida Panthers runs, they weren't known for this. So they bring in him. They kind of get red hot for a minute. I believe it was 14 or whatever it was, straight games with a point. It was a really.
Yeah. I think it might have been close to 20. It
was close to 20. It was a remarkable stretch. They end up, they end up being a playoff lock. Just the Central Division was so good, and when the Avalanche finished third, it's tough to get that one of those top spots. But they got a wild card spot, and they proved their worth. They took the Canucks to 6 games. The Canucks closed them out, I believe, in overtime in one of those games. Nashville choked a 2-goal lead in game 3. So if you do a couple things differently, maybe Nashville walks out of that series, and then they go to play Edmonton or whoever, and who knows what happens. But at the end of the day, it was a really solid team that was a B plus through the regular season, and then they get into the playoffs and take a great Canucks team that we could also argue for them, if Thatcher Demko doesn't get injured, does that team go on to make the Stanley Cup? That's the question mark. But at the end of the day, what did Nashville do? Nick, I know I talked about it, how, I wasn't a big fan of the amount of money they paid, but they did get better. And when they first started by locking up their goalie, UC Saros, who's been one of the best in the league for the last 5 years. And then they go out and be aggressive. They boost that power play by adding someone like Steven Stamkos, who's been crucial for the Lightning. Obviously, Brady Ski, big deal just to help booster that defensive line. And then my favorite contract of them all, Jonathan Marchessault, getting him from the Vegas Golden Knights. He knows what it takes to win a championship. He's been a really good player in this league. He joins the Nashville Predators. And now, Nick, I kind of want to ask you a question. Is this Predators team a team that, took a step huge last year to go compete for the Cup now? Or, are they still a few pieces away and not quite a championship caliber team, when you look at the Oilers and, the Panthers and, just teams that obviously were there this past season?
My answer to that is absolutely. I think they're going to compete now. They added not just one, but 2 guys who have been to the Cup, know how to win the Cup. Obviously, Steven Stamkos with the Lightning. They went to, 3 or 4 in the, past few years. I can't even remember how many they've been to. And then Jonathan Marchessault, a guy who's won the Conn Smythe, knows what it takes to win a Cup, won it just last year. When they re-signed Saros, which then was right before free agency, when they did that, I was this team's they're ready to go. They're bringing back, in my opinion, a top 5 goalie. They were already a really competitive team. We saw that when they were going on that 15, 20, whatever game it was, point streak after the All-Star break. And they kind of just hit a speed bump. The West is tough in the NHL as well. It's similar to the NBA, how, the West is kind of, you don't really know in hockey in general. There's not one team in general that's going to keep going back. But I absolutely think they are, I wouldn't be surprised if, you look at the odds as of right now, and they're one of the favorites for the Cup because they have all the tools. They have talent. They have, the experience, the knowledge of what it takes to win. And they've got a top-tier goalie. Any team that makes the Stanley Cup and wins it has all of those. It's exactly what Florida had this year. They had goal scorers. They had tough defense. That's who they picked up in Brady Shea, and then a top tier goalie in Bobrovsky. So I would not be surprised if at very minimum they made like the conference finals.
This team, you showed pieces last year. They took away Gustav Nyquist from the Wild last offseason. He was a dog for the short time we had him. They added Ryan O'Reilly, one of the best centerman face-off guys, just power play as well. Just a dog, also a thorn in the Wild side. So they really added, a lot of players to piss me off. But this, and then they took that step from missing the playoffs to a solid playoff team, and now they add 3 really good players at different things. Was the money worth it? That's another thing where I thought they did kind of overpay, but sometimes you got to overpay to take that next step. I do agree. I think this team will be better. I think they could take that leap into finishing top 3 in the Central. I still kind of like the Dallas Stars over them, but after that, you could make the argument, if the Avalanche, how much better did they get, or if any, did they get worse, and kind of are they, going to be, as good as they were last season? And considering Nashville's probably going to be better. And then, Winnipeg had a great regular season, but they didn't really do much, I believe. So they're kind of just there. So, can Nashville leap those teams? It's possible. I could see a scenario where they finish the 2 seed, maybe more so in the middle where they knock off one of those teams. I think Winnipeg is due for a fall off. And then you kind of, are behind Dallas and Colorado, but you're right there with them. So I think it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I think this team made some right moves. Stamkos is great on the power play. Marshall is just such a solid player. I thought obviously best value for the contract, and like you said with Vegas, he knows how to do it all, and he's just a winner. And then Brady Shea, provides a much needed, defenseman for this team, but you also have Roman Josi there. And like I said, you still have, some of the guys that have been around the block for a while with Nashville, Philip Forsberg, just crucial pieces to this team. And I'm curious, how they do, but like on paper, when looking at this roster so far, up and down, I'm loving it. But and one injury could change that. But I do think this is a team where you get into a 6-7 game series, and just with Andrew Brunette, who I love as a head coach, this team could be like, a sleeper team. Like if you were to bet money now for like, a team to win the Stanley Cup next year, a lot of people are loving, the high teams like, the Panthers, the Oilers, the Stars, those teams to obviously make it. But, can the Panthers be a sneaky pick where, a team you don't expect to win it, just kind of comes out of nowhere and wipes the competition?
One thing I also think is to note about, all these signings and everything is it sends a message to the fans and the players that were, already currently on the team. And that's, we're going all in. We want to win this thing. We believe in this team. We think this team can win. And as a fan, I'm not a fan of Nashville, but as a fan of, any team that would do that, I would be absolutely stoked. And if I'm a player on that team, I'm getting fired up because I'm seeing a guy like Steven Stamkos walk in the door who's got, 3 rings. I'm seeing a guy like Jonathan Marchessault who just won a ring. He's got a Conn Smythe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing my guy, you say Saros, he's here for the long term now. I'm getting fired up. I'm saying we can win a chip with this team. So I would say the Predators are a team to watch out for. They're going to be good up and down. They've got good defenders. They already had, like you just said, Roman Josi, who's a probably a top 5 defenseman in this league, not just defensively, but he also puts up crazy amounts of points. I'm pretty sure he had like 80 or 90 points a year or two ago just because he's an assist machine. So, and those numbers are probably only going to go up adding guys like Marchessault and Stamkos. So I think this will be a fun team to watch. It's kind of cool to see a city like Nashville, who really all they have is the Titans, and the Titans are kind of just like meh right now. It's kind of cool to see, an outside city like that win, not your regular New York or Toronto or LA or whatever, like a new face to the league, if you would say. Not really a face, but like a new name. It's kind of like when Vegas's first year, they go to the Stanley Cup. Like that was kind of cool to see, just because it was something I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, no, it's true. And obviously, Nashville had that window back in like 2017 when they lost to the Penguins in the finals, well, on that insane run, and had a couple of good teams. Then they kind of, took that step back, and now they're looking to go back to that, glory and finally taste it. And I think they made the right moves. And like you said, if I'm the players, I'm amped because this team went out and spent because they believe in us, and now it's time to prove them right. Because a lot of teams we've seen throughout all sports, not just NHL, where a team's real good to potentially being really good, but they don't go out and spend, and they don't really believe. And we've seen that multiple times. But this Predators front office and management and head coach believe that this team can win, and they spent, arguably overpaid, but they wanted to get better. And they did that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, though. Obviously, everything can be good on paper, but not translate to the ice. But yeah, with that being said, I think we're both had a solid agreement on kind of the Predators being a caliber team. I still, for me though, like I know you said absolutely yes, I still have to see it in a way. I believe they're one tier below that, but I thought they were a couple tiers below it before, and I think they got a couple tiers better. But I still don't think they're quite on the Oilers or Dallas Stars level yet, or Florida on the other side. Just because I still think those teams are just better all around, and obviously Edmonton's more so superstar, but Dallas I think is better all around still, just given their solid lines 1 through 4. But hockey does have upsets, so I could be proven wrong, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, but with that being said, NHL free agency is kind of here and gone. Some of the big names, obviously the draft happened, so teams are starting to fill out their rosters now, and we'll be here obviously throughout the whole offseason, kind of mainly talking about what teams are getting better, getting worse, and a team like Nashville, can they compete now for the championship, because everyone's now trying to chase down the Florida Panthers. With that being said, as always, we'll be here throughout the whole offseason, talking about breaking news in the hockey league. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and we'll catch you next one. Peace.